Welcome back to the show. So I want to talk about Social Security. I've had some people ask me this question as far as if I'm receiving Social Security and we have a government shutdown, will that affect me in any way? As well as the debt ceiling. If the debt ceiling is not raised, will that affect my Social Security check? So that's what I'm going to focus on today. Well, first off, on this channel, we talk about money, news, and more. If that sounds like something interesting to you, please subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell notification. That way you'll get notified anytime we put out a video. And like always, if you see my name and a picture of me in the comment section, make sure you also see a check mark next to my name. That check mark signifies that it's me. If you do not see that check mark, it's not me. It's someone trying to impersonate me. So will Social Security be affected if we have a government shutdown or if they do not raise the debt ceiling? The quick answer, and the answer that I'm telling a lot of people, is not exactly, because there's more details that we need to talk about. So when it comes to the funding of the government, and let me show you this article. This will explain it a little bit better. And this is Go Banking Rates, and basically when we're looking at, if we look right here where I put this highlight, Social Security is considered such a mandatory spending priority and does not rely on annual spending bills for its funding. So because of that, because Social Security is set aside and it's not tied to the government spending every year, it will not be affected. However, we are looking at a situation, if we have a government shutdown, you're not going to have the same workforce. So a lot of people who are working for the federal government will not be working. It's going to be essential workers only. And so because of that, if you have issues with your Social Security check, or you need to get something changed and all that, that might be delayed, and that could affect you. So you might, the check, you'll still receive the check, but you might have some issues if you do have to call them or get them to make some changes. So that's one thing when it comes to the funding of the government. If the government's not funded and there's a shutdown, well, then obviously you're not going to have the same workforce, which means that the customer service is not going to be the same. Now, when we're looking at the debt ceiling, now this is a very important thing to understand. When we're looking at the debt ceiling, it's the same thing. Social Security it's set aside money. Okay, so it's not necessarily going to be affected. However, if we do not raise the debt ceiling and our economy goes down, well, then now Social Security will be affected. Why? Because people who are working, they might lose their jobs, and the people who are working right now are paying for people on Social Security right now. That's how it works. We pay the payroll tax. So if we're in a situation where you have less people working, well, that's going to hurt people receiving Social Security as far as the benefits, because that money will have to come from somewhere, and they'll have to pull more money from the trust fund, which means we've all talked about this 2034. That's when the trust funds will run out of money. Well, we could be looking at a situation where it moves even closer. So it's like maybe 2030 instead of 2034, just because our economy went the wrong way. Economy went down. If the economy goes down, people are not working. They're not paying as much into Social Security. So if they're not paying as much into Social Security, you need to pull more from the trust fund. So that's the fear there. And then the same thing when it comes to just the access that you'll have to the Social Security Administration. It will diminish if we have a government shutdown and we have people not working, as well if the funding is not there and they can't hire the same workforce that we have right now. So if our debt ceiling is not raised and our economy goes bad, that's going to be bad for all of us, not just the people who are working, but it'll also be bad for people on a fixed income. And so this is a very scary time for a lot of people, because we're looking at the situation where the government, they just kind of kicked the can down the road. Back in September, they said, yeah, you know what? We'll just do a continued resolution when it comes to the shutdown. We'll just continue the debt ceiling until December 3rd. And now we're looking at December 3rd, and we don't know what's going to happen again. And so are they just going to kick this down the road another couple months, and then we'll be dealing with the same thing again? I don't know. But I really wish the government would just say, look, we need to handle these two things so we don't have to keep talking about it every couple of months, and having people, especially people on Social Security, people on a fixed income, in a situation where they don't know what's going to happen. Okay, that uncertainty is not good. It's not good for the market as well. I mean, you see the stock market has really been fluctuating the last couple of days, and that's because of this whole debt ceiling and shutting down the government. So we need to be stable. We need to get Congress to say, look, let's go ahead and push this off for a year the way it's supposed to be. I shouldn't even say push it off. Let's go ahead and deal with this so we don't have to deal with this for another year. That's the way to look at it. But right now, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. It looks like the Democrats right now are the ones that want to raise the debt ceiling. The Democrats don't want to have a government shutdown, but you do have Republicans on the other side that are saying, look, our hands are off this. We're not going to deal with it at all. And so if they choose not to deal with it, I mean, it's going to take both parties to come together to figure this out. If they choose not to deal with it, well, we're looking at a situation of it has to be in a reconciliation bill, which we all know this reconciliation bill is not going to go anywhere. The Build Back Better bill is not going to go anywhere anytime fast. And so they're not going to be able to get something together in the next couple of days to pass it with the reconciliation bill with all the stuff that's in it, and have the raising of the debt ceiling and then fund the government. They're not going to be able to do all that in a couple of days. So we're going to have to see how this plays out. But when it comes down to it, we really need politicians to come together. And I keep talking about this, and I know we've been looking at the situation of a huge divide in the last few years when it comes to Democrats and Republicans. They've always been apart. There's always been a divide between Democrats and Republicans, but not as serious as it is now. I mean, this is just crazy. You're hearing different Congress people calling out other Congress people and claiming that Congress people are terrorists, and it just, I mean, it's amazing what's going on right now with Congress. And the reality is we're paying their salaries, and look at how they're treating us, and look at how they're treating themselves. I mean, it's amazing. And let me just ask you guys this question. I want you guys to comment down below. If you ran a business and you had employees like some of the politicians that we're watching every day, what would you do? Let's say you had employees that were sending out videos of another employee saying that they're going to kill that employee, or showing this animation of them killing an employee, or you had employees that were lashing out at other employees and saying that they're terrorists and all this different stuff. And then you had other employees that are just bickering back and forth, calling each other names, and they weren't getting anything done. They're not working. All they're doing is going back and forth on Twitter. How would you handle that situation? I think most people would say, you know what? Those people need to leave. They're poison. They're toxic, and they are bringing down the whole business. And that's what we're looking at right now. We're looking at politicians that are bickering back and forth, that are doing all this stuff, and they're bringing down our government. They are bringing down our government. They're not doing anything constructive. None of these politicians that we're hearing about doing all these little things, they're not doing anything constructive, helping the American people. They're just going back and forth at each other. And their hope is that they can get those campaign funds. That's what they're looking for. And we're going to be looking at campaign season 2022. It's already started. It's already kicked off. You're already hearing different politicians saying that they're going to run. Some politicians, some not so politicians. Dr. Oz is going to be running for Senate. So we're hearing a lot about this now. The campaign season has already started, and you have some of these politicians in the House, which will be running for re-election. Everyone in the House runs for re-election every 2 years. They're looking at a situation where now they need those campaign money. And so they're lashing out. They're trying to get their name out there. They're trying to go viral. So I don't know what we're going to do when it comes to all this, when it comes to the government shutdown and the debt ceiling. But when it comes to Social Security, as of right now, Social Security will be okay. However, you have to look at, if we do go on a government shutdown, your customer service is going to change. And so if you do need to call people, you're going to be in a situation where you might not be able to contact that person. I want to know what you guys think about all this, so let me know down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one.